Another beautiful summer day outside, harvesting a few things. There's quite a bit of eggplant. You can see down there, over there. If I work my way, you can see there's some big ones and all that. So we're gonna grab one of these eggplant. Then when we move over here, you're gonna see in between there's a whole bunch of cherry tomato. All in here. There's also, well, the entire bush is covered in tomato. You just gotta look for them. We've got cherry and grape tomatoes, so I'm gonna harvest some of these. I'm gonna pick some of these tomato. I'm gonna pick a couple of the eggplant, and if we move over here, it's so crowded back here. It's because I try to maximize the use of the space that we have. We've got parsley and we've got basil. The basil sent to wilt. It's been a very hot day. It's probably about 34 degrees Celsius. With the humidity, it's probably closer to 40 degrees Celsius. So basil, parsley, we've got the tomato and the eggplant. Voila, the little harvest. So we've got a combination of red and golden or orange. I don't know if you guys can see the color of it. That sort of orange color. Cherry tomato. Additionally, we've got the lovely grape tomato. And you know, any tomato you have in your garden, listen, you plant it, you will not be disappointed. The flavor, the taste, the sweetness, everything about these tomatoes is just incredible. Of course, I mentioned we're gonna pick some parsley and some basil. With the basil, I'm just gonna give them a wash, and I'm just gonna go near the end because I want the basil flavor to be pronounced in the dish. The parsley, well, everything's going to get a wash, right? The parsley, of course, you're going to wash it and chop it up. Stems and everything, these are tender stems. The grape tomato, they're bigger, so I'm going to cut them in half. While the cherry tomato, I'll just leave them whole. With the eggplant, what I'm going to do is give it a good wash. I'm going to peel it, and I'm going to cube it up into maybe 1 centimeter or so cube. And we're going to start actually the dish by this guy here. I went ahead and cubed up the eggplant, and I hit it with a tiny bit of sea salt, not too much. And the oil is on a medium flame. And what we want to do, and you know, before we proceed, let's be clear. There is nothing Caribbean about this dish. I know there's going to be people trying to jackass the scene and talk about Caribbean pots, and this is not a Caribbean recipe. Listen, it is not a Caribbean recipe. It is very apparent, and you know, I ain't trying to hide the fact that I am just using what I have in the backyard to make a meal for my daughters, my son, and I. We're going to sort of get a crust, sort of fry the eggplant a bit first, remove it, and then we'll proceed. The eggplant will want to suck up quite a bit of the oil that we added in there, so I went in with another tablespoon of that olive oil. And it's been 4.5, almost 5 minutes. I'm going to give this 2 more minutes, and then we're going to remove it and set it aside in a bowl, and we'll add it back later on. And that eggplant is going to give the dish a sort of a sweet, smoky sort of flavor. And it's a great way to employ the use of, you know, and even if it wasn't eggplant, it could be zucchini, it can be onion, it could be whatever you have available in your garden. You know, squash will be brilliant in here. I'm just going to turn my heat down just a little bit to medium low as I take everything out, and again, it's going to sit on the side now to be added back a little bit later. Now, while I wish I made my own sausages, which you will see pretty soon, I have all the equipment for making it. I am not a fan of Italian sausages because I dislike the flavor, any sort of anise sort of flavor. So in this case here, my favorite sausage, to be honest with you, is a bratwurst. I will in the coming months show you guys how to make your own sausages. I have some unique flavors I want to share with you all, from turkey to pork to beef. No chicken, no chicken and crossing the road to become any sausage. What I will do here though, I will add about 1/4 cup of water in here because I don't want it to burn before the sausages are cooked all the way through. Additionally, I'll put the lid on and let those cook fully all the way through, and in cooking the water will burn off, and then we will be able to brown the sausages. It's been about 5 minutes with the lid on, and you can see I did add water. it's all gone now. Most of it is gone. We're back with the fat that we started with, and that is going to help brown the sausages. Now, they're fully cooked. I know that for a fact. But in browning it now, it will further cook to make sure, in case if the center isn't fully cooked. Now, here's the thing. The sausages are going back into the pot shortly, so they will finish cooking in the sauce. So don't really stress too much, but just get some color on them and get a little tan on the thing. And we're gonna fish these out of the pot. We're gonna set them aside to cool, and then you're gonna chop them up into sort of bite-sized pieces, or you know, any size pieces that you want. Since I have a bit of fat there, I want to sort of blister the skin of the tomato a bit and pull out some of the sweetness out of it at the same time. I remember I said I was going to chop the grape tomato in half, and the cherry tomato were going to remain whole. I'm just going to give this a stir, and the sort of water from washing the tomato will kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan there, but we will still do a little bit of deglazing shortly. As that fun happens, I'm just going to clear a little spot in the center, and I'm going to go in with some tomato puree. That is concentrated tomato paste. 2 tablespoons of that. I want some black pepper in there. And by adding the tomato paste now, what's going to happen is, just going to move it down. It's going to sort of caramelize and pull out the sweetness from that tomato puree. What I'd also like to do is to give it a good dose of crushed garlic, and that garlic is just going to waken things up. My heat is on medium low because I don't want to burn the garlic. I just want to be able to give it that little fry in that bit of grease on the bottom there, and that is remnants of the olive oil that we started, and whatever fat the bratwurst sausage would have released as well. So I'm just going to give that another minute or so, and the kitchen should have the lovely aroma of that garlic. Man, I'm telling you, that garlic there is proper things. What I want to do now, if you notice the bottom there, we have all that fond happening. So I want to add, and this bottle of wine was gifted to me by the grower, the maker of the wine. I'm just going to hit that a bit of wine. We ain't trying to drunken anybody, but we're going to turn up the heat now, and we're going to scrape the bottom here. I know some of you will get on like some backside, oh, he's scraping the bottom of the pot and all kind of thing like that. By the way, I know I'm going to get these comments coming in. There's always a backside. The coloration that you seen on the bottom of my pot when I first started, that is called fond. That is not dirt. That is the natural buildup from years of using this cast iron pot. Alright? So what we want to do now is hit that. You know what? Let's let the alcohol burn off for 2s, and then we're going to continue. Give that another quick stir. And I will be using some passata, which is pureed tomato. I like this one here, strained pureed passata. Just to give this a bit more a saucy sort of consistency, because I'll be eating this. We'll be eating this with pasta, as I mentioned earlier there. I want just a tiny bit more salt in here. I know you saw me add salt and black pepper. What I also want is some pepper flakes. Give it a little kick. If kick is not your thing, you don't have to. You understand? What I also want is the eggplant back in there. That's going to give it some body as well. That parsley that we picked earlier, all in there. I'm just going to give that a proper stir, but before I do, I've got 2 bay leaves. Hit that to stir, like so. Now, if you find later on when you taste it, depending on, you know, the tartness of your tomato, if you wanted to add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of brown sugar, by all means, it is up to you. I typically do that, and I know some people, they're against it, and they're like, I'm not following any rules, I'm following delicious flavor and taste at the end of the day. Yeah, that's set the standard for me, so I ain't following no rules, just my rules. It's been a couple minutes since we added everything in there. In goes that passata now, and I'm gonna hit that about 1/4 cup of water to rinse this, to get all of that tomato niceness out of it. Shaky shake. There we go. Waste not, want not. Mommy raised me to believe in that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hit that to stir like so. I'm I'm gonna bring it up to a boil, and then we're gonna let it simmer because we really want the garlic and the bay leaf and everything else to do its magic. Yeah, and that is a little bit of slowness in there. Don't rush the brush. Don't rush the brush. Don't forget, we still have all that, oh boy, lovely basil to add in there. So, and what I'm going to do now, since I already have those bubbles coming, I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to place my lid on because I'm not trying to clean up the splatter from on the stove there. It's been about 6 minutes since we added the passata and everything else in here. At this point, I went ahead and I chopped up the sausages. Notice that juice I was talking about? Everything is going in there. Give this another mix and continue cooking it for another 15 to 20 minutes or so. We want the sausages to release some more flavor in here. I notice how nice and thick and chunky and everything else this is becoming here. Just want to thicken it up just a little bit further. And I kid you not, it's going to be one of the most delicious meals with a little pasta or something, totally up to you. In my case here, I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of pasta. So what I usually do is just bread with slap of butter, and I just be dipping and scooping and eating and enjoying. No lie, that is how I just rock it. But anyhow, stuff out of the garden with the sausages, exception. Passata, we could easily make that with tomatoes, man, but we ain't going that route. We buying it, it's easier to do that. And don't forget, go out and support the wine now. All I see it? Let me see if I can. There we go. It's real best. I don't take a little swig. People that swig wine, well, I might have no pedigree, so I swig in. It's been about 17 minutes. What I want to do is give this a stir, and you see how it's starting to thicken up and go chunky. I'm not going to put the lid back on at this point. What I'm going to do, and while I wish I had fresh Parmesan, I don't. I have this flaky stuff. I'm just going to hit that some Parmesan cheese in there. And I'm not going to taste it for salt for another couple minutes because that Parmesan cheese will bring a sort of a salty element to things. We will taste it in about 2 or 3 minutes after that Parmesan has added its uniqueness and flavor to the dish, to the sauce. And you know, we're almost done. What we need to do is you thicken it up. Well, you'll taste it for salt, adjust that salt. If you find that it's a bit acidic, you can go in with a bit of heavy cream as well too. It's totally up to you. And then the final thing we'll do, just before we turn off the stove, is that nice fresh basil. We're gonna add that in there. But now I'm gonna risk making a mess on my stove. I'm gonna leave it open because I want some of that moisture to come out. And then I'll taste it for salt. Yo man, that slaps. But I'm telling you, that thing slaps, it slaps. You're getting the sweetness from all that tomato out there, the hint of bay leaf, the garlic, the eggplant, all those different things in there. The sausages, boom, punch. What I'm gonna do is just rip. I don't want to cut up the one. By the way, when I added the parsley in there, I included the stems and everything else. I'm not trying to bruise up the basil, so I'm just gonna rip it up. I'm gonna give it a stir. I'm gonna turn off the stove, put the lid on there, and let that sit with that nice fresh basil in there for about 4 or 5 minutes. Well, I'm gonna start making my pasta now. That's what I'm gonna do. By the time that pasta is done, and I don't like al dente, we've been through this before. I like it a little bit on the soft side when I do eat pasta, but I will dip with my bread. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Again, not a Caribbean recipe, so it won't be featured on CaribbeanPot.com, but I man thought I'd share it. We're always looking for different ideas for making dinner. Yeah, winter coming in. Listen, you see this here? A cool autumn or fall night. Pasta, bread, you know, if you're into the wine and thing, you know, do your thing.